Emily. My heart is just so filled with gratitude. Okay, so the theme for October is living everyday wonder, finances. Yay! The topic for today is swimming in the infinite ocean. Matthew chapter 6, verse 33 says, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his or her righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you." Eric Butterworth's translation of that verse goes like this: "When we establish ourselves in the consciousness of God, the whole universe moves to flow into us with its abundance of life and substance." And Plotinus then spoke about creative nature of contemplating the abundance of God when we wrote, "I do not argue, I contemplate. And as I contemplate, I let fall the seeds of thought into the mirror of mind, which then becomes the mirror of reality." I'm sorry, the mirror of matter. Ha! Still works, right? Still works. Okay, so let us affirm together. I am always swimming in an ocean of infinite abundance. Oh, and now you're welcome. And now I want to welcome our dear Reverend Kathleen, who started this community 12 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. Oh, I'm over here. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. What a blessing. What a blessing. Take a moment and just look around at all of the glorious, magnificent ways in which God is showing up. So amazing. And you know, the thing to remember is that there are how many people on this planet? And how many animals and grains of sand and leaves on trees and just everything you can imagine. And you begin to have a taste of what infinite means, but that's just the beginning. So this entire month is really dedicated to that thing called abundance. And I would like to start with a question. What did one penny say to the other penny? Anybody know?
You don't make sense.
Well, you're close. Let's get together and make sense. So let's get together every Sunday this month and make sense out of this thing called finances and how we can have everyday wonder, how we can bring that consciousness of wonder and awe into our financial realm. Sound good? Yeah, I mean, we've been bringing, wonder into everything else. Why not finances? Because remember, everything is an expression of the Most High God, everything, and that includes money. And so we'll be looking at, we'll be maybe redefining money for some of you. Some of you it'll be a review or maybe even a deepening into finances, because often when people bring up finances in churches or spiritual community, some people start getting a little nervous. But let me tell you that as we continue to deepen into a deeper understanding of this thing that we call finances or money, we can maybe relieve ourselves of all of that baggage so that we can enter into relationship with it that is healthier and more vital and vibrant. So today, we have kind of a way in which we're going to flow through this month. Today we're going to be embracing the value of contemplating the omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, and infinite ocean of life that we call God. Contemplation. We'll be talking a little bit more about why the word contemplation. And next week we expand in our understanding of our divine nature as abundance, as infinite supply. Because we are individualizations of God, and then how to interact more effectively with that ocean of abundant supply that we call God, in which we live, move, and have our being. October 16th and 23rd, we broaden our understanding of money, and we enter that by dispelling a lot of myths that have been created by our culture around money. So in order that we can, clear that away and stand in a place of clarity and openness to be a part of that flow, the inflow and the outflow of finances. And then finally, on October 30th, we activate the threefold process for the flow of the infinite good of God. And then we participate in the Dia de los Muertos ritual that will follow that. And so on the very last Sunday of the month, please bring in photos of your ancestors, those who have made their transition. We'll have a beautiful altar, and Candace will be leading a beautiful ceremony around that. So we're so grateful for that. And so today, my intention is that you walk away with such a deep value of contemplating the abundance of the universe that you cannot help yourself but be compelled to do that throughout this entire month so that you can expand your awareness of that. And then we're also going to be deepening into the understanding that what we contemplate is what we create. So we want to begin by contemplating that which we want to create instead of what we don't want to create. And in this case, this month is about abundance, which is the quality of God that is related to finances, the underpinning of finances. Okay, so infinite divine mind, the infinite ocean of divine mind. I think a really great way to start that contemplation is to embrace the beautiful photos of the universe, and we did this once already, but let's do it again, okay? Of the James Webb Space Telescope that is out in deep space and taking photos of things that have never been taken before. And so, are you ready to blow your mind? And that means blow it wide open to a greater embodiment of what infinite means. And infinite, goes on and on and on, but we can continue to expand our consciousness of it. So let's do it. So let's look at Webb's first deep field photo. Oh, there it is. So that what you see in the foreground there is a cluster of universes. A cluster a dense cluster. And we know all of them are many, many, many miles apart. And so just imagine, hold your hand out in front of you and imagine that you're holding a grain of sand and you're holding it up in the sky. You're holding up a grain of sand. That is the spot in which that cluster of universes lies in the sky. A tiny, tiny little spot. A profusion of galaxies. And then there are galaxies even behind that cluster. Can you see all the other galaxies? They call that particular cluster in the foreground the SMAC 723 galaxy cluster. And so just to give you some idea of size, our galaxy, which is an average-sized galaxy, has 200 to 400 billion stars in it. Our galaxy, 200 to 400 billion stars. And they're very great distances apart. And then the diameter of our galaxy, anybody know what a light year is? How long it takes light to travel in 1 year, and you know how fast light is. So our galaxy is 100,000 light years in diameter.
And expanding every second.
Yes. Yeah, the whole universe is expanding, yeah. So with that in mind, we are an average sized, and then they have these really giant, larger galaxies like Hercules A. I love the name of it, Hercules A, the giant galaxy. It's one of many. Is so large that it makes our galaxy look like a tiny little grain of sand. Okay? We're still expanding our consciousness. And so take all of that and imagine the vastness of the universe. Remember, that was just one tiny little grain of sand dot. And then we have all 360 degrees like around us with that vast expansiveness. And why are we taking the time to do this? Because that is how we expand our consciousness of abundance and open ourselves to the inflow and the outflow of divine supply. It begins by contemplation. And then the psalmist, and this is Psalm 8, verses 3 through 4. And it goes like this, and the psalmist was speaking to the creator of the vastness of the universe. It said, when I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is humankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them. There's a powerful message in that psalm. Not only the vastness and the magnificence. So, you know, the psalmist most likely lived in the desert. Have you ever been in the desert and looked up at the sky when it was dark? I have once, and it totally blew my mind because it's so thick with stars. It's a huge cluster of stars. And it is mind-blowing. And so if you can imagine the psalmist filled with awe at the desert sky at night, and then contemplating, as vast as this universe is, human beings are still cared for by this one infinite universal creator of it all. That is pretty awe-inspiring when you think of our size compared to the universe. And yet I do deeply know that this one divine presence cares for each and every one of us, in, through, and as us, and all around us. So let's take a look at what is wealth. What is this thing that we call wealth? I'm going to begin by making sense. I'll keep it up here. Sense of the word called wealth. First of all, it's defined in the dictionary as abundant supply. And it's derived from the word weal, which means a sound, healthy, and prosperous state. It means like a state of mind, right? It's a state of mind. The infinite and unlimited wealth of the universe is then who we are. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that through Troward's eyes, Thomas Troward. So then ideas used by the divine, the creator, used a potentiality or a field of energy that we often call substance and formed it into what is now the universe, and which continues to unfold. Creation never stops, it keeps going. Ideas in the mind of God, God contemplating itself is what Troward called it. So that unformed substance then is the invisible energy that is throughout the entire universe. Scientists tell us that there's no such thing as empty space, that there's either potential energy that's ready there to be formed, or there are particles or matter, which is energy in form. So this infinite ocean of ideas then that I'm talking about is really okay, I'm going to start again. Let me go back here. So the infinite wealth that we are talking about is, and so hear this very clearly, ideas. Ideas in the mind of God. That is the true source of wealth. That is the first wealth. Ideas. And each and every one of us has the availability of that infinite wealth of the mind of God. So this infinite ocean of ideas, you can just imagine it all around you, within you, and that idea, the song about being grateful is just so perfect. Gratitude, we're gratitude for the presence of the divine all around us, within us, in front of us, behind us, above us, below us, is that infinite universal presence, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. Can everybody imagine that? This is part of the contemplation. And we are points of consciousness in that infinite sea. And so we have available to us, and this is not just us, but everyone, everywhere, the potentiality of that field in the form of ideas and in the form of substance. So scarcity is not a thing in God. It's something that the human mind has made up. And as a result, we've made up some very distorted ideas about God and therefore about our own lives. Let me share a few of them with you. That God somehow withholds love from us if we break the rules. That's made up by humanity. Why? Because God is love, ever giving of itself. God does not withhold love. God is love. A next distorted idea: God desires us to suffer and in order to learn our lessons. No, there's something called the law, the universal law, choices and consequences. We just get to experience the consequences of our choices, and when we make new choices, we get new consequences. It's much more simple than that. There's another distorted idea that God desires us to earn its love. Again, that's what grace is. Grace is the ever-givingness of spirit. It's unearned. It's not something that's deserved or earned. It just is. It just simply is. The last one, living in poverty is somehow more pleasing to God. The infinite presence, think about it, an infinite presence cannot possibly want its creation to live in poverty and restriction and lack. These are ideas that have been passed down through for generations, and I know there are more and more of us that are beginning to move away from those ideas. But the truth is we want to center ourselves in and contemplate that truth of abundance in order to move forward and free ourselves from the bondage of these limited ideas. That's what we're doing this month. So when Jesus says, seek first the kingdom, he was saying, as I think was so beautifully said by Eric Butterworth, to contemplate God's infinite presence. And we're focusing on the infinite abundance this month. There's also love and peace and joy and all of those other qualities. But abundance, seek first the abundant nature of the divine. Seek that first. And then we develop the consciousness. And remember, the consciousness is what we create from then. Emmett Fox, in his little book called The Golden Key, said, whenever you're finding yourself being in stress over something, focus on God. Focus on God. Bring your attention, contemplate the nature of God. Charles Fillmore of the Unity Movement experienced this thing called substance or infinite supply surrounding him as golden snowflakes. He saw them as golden snowflakes all around him. So take a moment now, and whatever it works for you, picture. Maybe it could be golden snowflakes. What is it all around you? This substance and these ideas that are available to you. They're not only around you, they're within you. So we continue to contemplate these things throughout the month. And so finally, Thomas Troward observed that the universe creates by contemplating itself. God creates by contemplating itself. In Science of Mind, we say we become what we think about. And I love that quote by the ancient metaphysician, philosopher called Plotinus. I do not argue, I contemplate. And as I contemplate, I let the seeds of thought fall into the mirror of mind, which then becomes the mirror of matter. This is really important because it says there is no need to argue with lack and limitation thinking. It really wastes our energy and we just keep creating more and more of it. So we don't want to argue with our own subconscious mind, our own conditioned mind, and we don't want to argue with other people about it. Instead, he said, contemplate. So as we contemplate the infinite mind of God, it lifts us out of our conditioned beliefs of lack, limitation, and struggle into the truth of flow, ease, and grace and plenty. Did everybody get that? It's turning away from those thoughts of lack and limitation and focusing on the infinite supply of the divine. So contemplation, again, is creative. We create what we focus on. Do you want more supply, financial supply in your life? Focus on the abundance of God. It's that simple. I mean, this is a very beginning and very important part of transformation of your consciousness. And so as we recognize and contemplate the vastness of spirit and its extravagant expression of life, and we recognize our oneness with that presence, then it makes no sense. It makes no sense to think that poverty and lack is a path of a good spiritual person. Does not make sense. In fact, Unity founder Charles Fillmore said, "It is a sin to be poor." Now, we often don't use that word in this teaching because of the connotation, from past generations. But let's redefine sin, because it actually means missing the mark. But also, I like the acronym self-induced nonsense. Self-induced nonsense. So we want to let go of the self-induced nonsense and step into the truth of abundance this month, remembering that we're made in the likeness and image of God, and all that God is, we are. So I would really love to hear from all of you. Let's do this together. Let's contemplate abundance. And here's the way that I did it in the past, and I still do it now, but it really transformed me. At that time I was working as a school counselor, and I would be driving to work, and there was an abundance of cars. It wasn't a traffic jam. There was abundance of cars on the road, an abundance of leaves on the trees. And when I go down to the beach, the abundance of grains on the sand. When I go into the grocery store, the abundance of food on the shelves. Whatever it is, begin to contemplate the abundance all around you. And when you're in meditation, contemplate the abundance of the divine as the universe. Or even just focus on some of these beautiful photos from the James Webb telescope. And then I want to hear from you. And you can put stuff up on the board over there, the demonstration board. I want to hear from you the demonstrations of that shift in consciousness. How many people are with me on this? All right, let's do it. Okay, let's turn within, and with a great, deep sense of the glory, the presence, the power, the magnificence of the Most High God, infinite supply itself of ideas, infinite supply of substance, every corner of the universe filled with this presence, and yet this presence is present in its undivided totality everywhere, in every spot. So right here within us is the totality of the presence, the power, the life, and the infinite supply of the Most High God, and all of the love intelligence to go with it, to know exactly what is ours to do with that great substance in order to download heaven on earth, a world that works for all. And so I am just so grateful that each and every one here has said yes to expanding our consciousness of abundance, of leaving that self-induced nonsense of scarcity behind us, in order that we can use our gifts and talents and resources to make a difference in the world, in our lives. And so I'm so grateful. I'm so, so grateful for the great and powerful yes within us to align ourselves with the Most High God. I release this word into universal law, knowing that it is done, and I invite us to accept it with a powerful yes, and so it is. All right. Nonsense.